don't know about you, but I have a lot of friends who they're either naturally slim or they're either naturally like capable of gaining weight. And I fall in that bracket of people who can gain weight quickly. And the thing is, most of the times we focus on, okay, how can I lose weight? How can I lose weight? But we focus less on how to actually gain weight in a healthy way. Because some people they try, but the more they try, the more they realize, oh snap, I'm not gaining weight in the wrong areas, or I'm now unhealthy, that kind of thing. That like, how can I gain weight in a healthy way? Well, if this is you, then I guess this video is for you, so stay tuned. So welcome to Snippets of Synth, and today I'm with Tawanda, and we're going to be discussing this topic, as you already know, about how to gain weight in a healthy way. Or Tawanda will be giving us a little bit of a snippet into how you did it, and hopefully whoever's watching this will benefit from it, because I know a lot of people have been asking about this topic for a while. So yeah, straight into it. Tawanda, do you mind introducing yourself? And yeah,
Do I really have to introduce myself?
well, yes,
Why? Can I not just be anonymous?
it's
Can
up.
I just not just be anonymous? But no, it's cool. It's cool. Yeah, quick one. My name's Tawanda. Cynthia reached out to me just to get some questions and just have a conversation about how to quote unquote gain weight, put on muscle, bulk in a nice, healthy, clean way. So that's just what the conversation is going to be about. So go on, fire away. I know you've got questions ready for me, so fire away. I'll try to answer them. I'll try
Okay,
to answer them as best as I can.
okay.
But hopefully this will help someone out there.
All right. Nice to meet you. I can't
Good
even say
stuff.
that. Nice to have you here, Tawanda. And thanks for accepting the request. All right. So, first question: why do you think a lot of people want to gain weight?
Ooh, that's a good question. That is a very good question. I think it's quite subjective in that it's quite a broad topic depending on where you're coming from and your walk in life, really, your experiences. So to start off with, I'd say it's quite subjective. So a lot of people have different reasons. Like you could have someone who probably grew up, um, could be a guy who was very skinny and just felt very conscious about the fact that, you know what, I'm a bit on the skinnier side. I'd like to put on some weight, just have a bit more meat on the bone. Or you could have someone who just thinks to themselves, do you know what, I want to feel healthy. I want to put on muscle. I want to do this. So I think it's quite subjective in that sense, but some of the reasons are obviously to do with your self-image, like how you want to come up, how you want to look. And a lot of the time self-image also impacts like your self-worth, depending on how you, because a lot of the time, let's be honest, the better you look, the better you feel about yourself, isn't it? If you look the way you want to look. So some people do that because they just want to feel good and look better, because it just helps them with their self-worth, self-esteem, etc. And again, one of the reasons through conversations I've come across with people, it's just general trends. Like it depends what the in thing is at that time. So for both men and women, it could be sometimes as guys, you with social media, you see like the people that are popping or whatever, you come across different profiles and you think, you know what, I'd like to look like that, or that's what I'd like, that's what's in at the moment. Or with women, it's the same thing. You could think to yourself, do you know what, I'd want to be a bit more curvy, I want to be a bit more, have a bit more flesh on the bone. So it's all subjective. It depends on your walk in life. So I can't really give a black and white answer in regards to that. Do you know what I mean?
Mm.
I don't know. What are your thoughts on that?
Oh, what are my thoughts on that? All right, I was gonna ask something, but all
Go
right.
on, follow up. Go on, follow up. Ask me something.
No, let me give my thoughts, and then I will answer. I will ask a question that's not on one of the questions I gave you.
All right.
All
All right.
right.
Here we go.
So basically, from what I've gathered, I think there is like some people want to lose weight, and then there are other
Yeah,
individuals. It's actually weird. Like people usually crave what they struggle with. So people who are
yeah,
naturally petite and everything, they usually want to be like, oh, I want to gain weight. And then
yeah,
people
yeah,
who have bones that can easily gain weight are always like, oh, I want to be slimmer, that kind of thing. So there's this whole thing of weight loss, weight gain, of which
yeah,
weight loss and weight gain aren't bad as long as they're done in a healthy way. Because
yeah,
sometimes, like if you're really don't know say skinny, yeah, but if you're really like yeah, we'll just use that word. If you're really skinny, sometimes it can cause more harm long term, in terms of the way the way aging process happens. There's this thing called osteoporosis. If you don't know about it, guys, Google it, because it's a condition that affects a lot of people who have really, I'm looking for a good word, really thin bonds, yeah, for long term.
okay,
And then like if you like, the other advantage of also gaining weight is you have like probably enough nutrients, that kind of thing, and all that. So wanting to gain weight is not a bad thing. And I know a lot of people, they want to gain weight because they want to be healthier. And like you say, some
yeah,
people want to gain weight because they want to look better, which is not bad. It's great.
yeah,
Ought to be, we ought to be trying to look as best as we can, be the best version of who you are. Like that's my motto
yeah,
in life.
yeah,
Um, and then the other reason, like you've already said, is like comparison, of which that could be a good reason or a bad reason, um, depending on how much the person
um,
ends up taking it. Because if you're trying to gain weight so that you compare, when you gain it, you always feel like, actually I want to gain more, actually, or you'll be like, actually I want to lose, actually, because you always be looking at other people and not looking at
yeah, yeah, yeah,
you
yeah,
being the best version of yourself. So yeah, there are some different interesting reasons out there, but it all comes down to, as an individual, trying to figure out, why am I really doing this, what's the reason, or what's pushing me to do it.
yeah, yeah.
Which brings me to the question
Go
of,
on, fire
for
away,
you
fire away.
personally, what inspired you or encouraged you to gain weight?
For me,
Mm-hmm,
really and truly,
mm-hmm.
um, I I'll
I'll
paint the
paint the
picture.
picture. Okay.
So I was mid-teens. I was about, yeah, 6 foot tall, but I was as light as a feather. So you can imagine I was very tall and very slim, very athletic because I used to do a lot of sports.
You're
But I
still
was
tall.
very, yeah, I know I'm still tall. You don't have to point that out. I know I'm still tall, but
Go
I
ahead.
didn't have any meat on my bone at all. So I looked like I just looked straight up and down like a lamppost. And even though I did a lot of athletics, but a lot of the thing is, one thing that got me into wanting to put on weight, but more specifically muscle and body build, was I my favorite movie growing up was The Terminator. So if you know The Terminator and if you know Conan the Barbarian, the actor in there was Arnold Schwarzenegger. So for me, that's what I always thought. You know what? I want to look like that one day. So for me, it was kind of like that. Not necessarily I wanted to be healthier, or I just wanted to put on muscle and I wanted to look good. And that's just me being very transparent. Like I was like, yeah, do you know what? I want arms like Arnold. I want this. I want that. And then from there, I got into actual bodybuilding where through the gyms that I went to, so I started watching actual competitions, people that compete. I've got friends that compete. I've got people that I knew, and I started following like all the professionals. And then that's when my mind really got into, okay, this is how you should eat. This is how you should train. This is the most effective way of doing this. So that's been like a 10-year journey now. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Ah,
Does that
interesting.
answer your question?
Yes,
Or you've got
because
more questions? Because you look like you've got more questions on your
don't
mind.
worry, they'll come. They'll come. But all right, let's go to the other question that I had here, but the other ones will come. Um, ok- because we talked a little, I probably talked a little bit about how people have naturally have different body types, and
Yep,
if anyone watched like the previous video I did on with Kelly, which was talking about body types and everything, and people
yeah,
wanting to gain weight, we realized that okay, everyone has different body types. We're literally
yep,
all
yep, yep.
created with different body types. No one has the same. We're not. We all don't have the same type of body type. Now,
No,
how does the different natural body types have an impact on gaining weight on people who want to gain weight?
you see, I don't want to get too scientific about it
Okay.
because we could be at this for days, and I just want to keep it very simple. But you know, like the three standard body types: ectomorph, mesomorph, and endomorph, right? That's just from that perspective. Really and truly, from what I've discovered, it boils down to one thing in terms of gaining weight: your metabolism. So if you tend to be and how your body reacts to the different foods you feed it. So being an ectomorph, you're probably going to find that you can eat a lot of food and put away a lot of calories, but struggle to gain weight.
So high metabolism.
So because of the high metabolism, because your body, as soon as the food goes in, your body just uses it as fuel straight away and just burns through it straight away. A mesomorph tends to be a bit more in the middle, whereby you will still have quite a fairly high metabolism because you're very athletic, but your body tends to want to retain some of that food that you're feeding it rather than just using it out as pure energy. As an endomorph, you'll find that you'll be able to gain weight a lot quicker because you've got a lower metabolism, your body holds on to food a lot more, and you probably don't want to be eating as much. You don't want to be eating as much as an ectomorph will. So an ectomorph will have to probably eat quite a few thousand calories a
Mhm.
day to gain weight. A mesomorph slightly less than that, an endomorph a lot less than that, simply because of the different types of metabolism. So that's what it boils down to. It's just down to and I'm trying to keep this very, very simple and basic without getting too complex. It boils down to your metabolism and how quick your body processes food. I remember when I first started eating like properly, I would, man, because I was your classic
Come up.
ectomorph. Yeah, I would have to eat, no joke, 6,000 calories a day to gain weight, and I was putting, but still my body was just burning through it. I'll explain how later on, because you're looking at me like, wow, that's just nuts. But do you know what I mean? So I'll explain how later on, but you'll see and when I break it down later on, you'll see exactly how you can do it that in a in a structured way that helps you put on that good quality size.
Mm,
Does that
interesting.
answer your question?
Yeah, yeah.
All
So
right,
just
cool,
for the
cool.
people at the back, we're saying ectomorph is when you have a high metabolism, and
Yeah,
this is whereby it's usually like small frame, typically skinny. And then mesomorph um,
yeah,
is whereby like athletic people are maybe rectangular. Their metabolism is high, but not like too high. So they're like in the middle.
yeah.
They can gain fat easier than
The
ectomorphs, but
ectomorphs,
not
yeah,
as much. Like that's the ideal probably. And then there's endomorph, whereby they have a soft and round body, like typically gain fat really fast.
yeah,
Um, and they find it hard to lose weight. Yeah, all right,
yeah,
cool. And their metabolism is slow. All right.
yeah.
So, what was I gonna? So, what are the right ways and wrong ways of gaining weight? Because you talked about you were eating 6,000 calories
Calories,
a
yeah.
day. Was that right?
Yeah,
Yeah, now
yeah,
tell me
yeah,
that.
yeah. Do you know what? I'll break this down. So, for example, when it comes to gaining weight, it's all about food. That's 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 what it boils down to. Whether you're doing it just simply to gain good quality weight, whether you want to get put on muscle, whether you want to quote unquote go become a bodybuilder and compete, you have to eat food, and you have to eat food on a regular basis, because food is what drives everything. So for this part of your questions, I'm going to just touch on the two different ways, the two different approaches of eating, and then the types of foods, if that makes sense. So in terms of wrong ways, I'll start with the wrong, then move on to the right. There's something called dirty bulking, which is basically you are having a surplus of calories, but you're not getting that from good food. So, example, a dirty bulk would literally be you are throwing in calories from high sugary foods. So you could probably throw in some ice cream twice a day, because that's calorie dense, but
Mm,
it's just all fat and sugar, isn't it? High fatty foods. So you could throw in probably some fried chicken, some burgers, and just very fatty, oily food. So that's like a dirty bulk. So you're getting your calories, but it's not coming from necessarily the best source of foods. It's coming from like calorie dense, high sugar,
mm.
high fat. And if you know anything, correct me if I'm wrong, you're more the nutrition person here, but what does your body do when it can't break down sugar, or the sugar
It
it
keeps it
keeps?
in, or and then after a while, it starts clotting the necessary organs.
Exactly. So you want to stay away from that as much as possible.
Mm,
But then there's the clean bulk, which is what I tend to do, which is so someone on a dirty bulk will particularly eat 3, 4 times a day, but very big, dense, calorie rich, fatty, sugary foods.
mm,
Whereas the clean bulk, which is what I do, is I will eat between, when I want to gain serious weight, I will eat between 5 and 8 times a day, which sounds crazy, but I will break that down into very small, clean meals. So rather than eating one big meal and then just feeling like, ugh, sluggish,
mm.
I will eat smaller meals more frequently, so every 2.5 to 3 hours, and that helps me put on good quality size. So, in terms of examples of food, I will have white rice or brown rice,
Mm.
sweet potatoes, oats, and those are my main three carbohydrate sources. Um, for my protein sources, I would tend to have something clean like chicken breast, could be some type of fish. Um, I do like steak every now and again. I like steak every now and again. Eggs, and tuna is always a good one. I know tuna qualifies as fish, but tuna is very cheap and you can just eat it as you go. So that'll be my protein sources. My veg, I will tend to anything green and leafy. You want to stick to that. So that's where I get majority of my calories from in a day. So I'll spread those across. Typically, I know eight's quite high. I rarely get in 8 meals a day, if I'm being honest. Majority of the time, I average between 5 and 6, but I still manage to get the calories that I need in for that day in order for me to gain the weight I want to gain. So the right way is to gain weight by eating good, clean, healthy foods, and breaking that down into smaller, more frequent meals. You don't have to do what I do and eat several times, like 5 to 8 times a day because that's nuts. We've got jobs out here. I work from home, so I've got that luxury. Do you know what I mean?
I was thinking,
But
yes, with our doctors, but yeah.
but there is a way of maneuvering around that. In that, what I used to do when I didn't work from home was some of my meals. So my I'll touch on it later when we discuss about protein supplements and stuff. I used to blend some of my meals. Also, that reminds me, you also want to throw in some good fruits in there. So I typically like bananas, apples, pears. I like a lot of berries because they're antioxidants. So you want to throw those in because they just help clear your system as well and provide a good source of fiber. And you want nuts. You want to throw in some nuts in there as well. Walnuts, cashew nuts, almonds, that kind of stuff. So you want to eat a good, it's basically eating a good balanced diet, but just increasing the frequency of it. So
Mm.
that's the good way of doing it. The dirty way, just throw in McDonald's 3 times a day. You good? You gain weight in no time, and a couple of milkshakes. Do you know what I mean?
I have a follow-up question now.
Go
So,
on,
um,
fire away.
if someone, let's say, was eating, how long would you recommend this? Like bulk eating? Is it until maybe someone can see the results and then they go back to
I would,
still eating a lot more, but now reducing the amount of times they eat? Because
I would say, go
question,
on.
because nutritionally, like there's this evidence that shows that frequent eating for a long time usually kind of affects the digestive system because your
Yeah,
body needs to literally have time to digest and all that. But I get why you'd be eating a lot because you want to gain weight. So that would be
this is the
how long.
thing. This is the So now you're getting a bit more technical now. I was trying to not go down that road.
Well,
So, so the thing is, I would recommend doing what I've just suggested, a clean bulk,
mm,
for about 4 to 6 weeks.
okay.
If you do that for 4 to 6 weeks consistently, because that's the key. The key is consistently. So you want to do this on a daily basis. You do that for 4 to 6 weeks, you will notice a huge difference in how your body looks, how your body feels, and in terms of the scales will reflect that. So I tend to do it for about 4 to 6 weeks. If I've been very consistent, 4 weeks. If I've not been as consistent, 5 to 6. If I've been okay-ish, 5 weeks. And the reason I say that is I'll then have a deload week. So a week or two where I completely reduce the calories, probably eat 2 to 3 times a day just to give my digestive system a rest, as you pointed out. Because continuing to do that over an extended time period can be dangerous. And then once I finish that 2 to 3 deload week, I will have a maintenance phase. So currently, right now, I'm in a bit of a maintenance phase where I'm not eating as much calories.
Mm,
I've done my deload where I went down to like 2 to 3 normal size meals a day. So now I'm eating just basically, I've cut out certain foods and I'm eating basically about 3 to 4 meals a day, just slightly bigger portions, but I'm just maintaining. I'm not having too much of a calorie surplus. I'm just eating like your average everyday person would,
mm,
but just bigger portions. So I wouldn't say do this consistently throughout because you don't want to be in a calorie surplus for too long. You
mm,
want to actually be in a surplus for a period of time, come down completely, and then do a maintenance, take a week off, and then restart again.
mm. Okay.
Is that technical enough for you?
That's technical enough for me, and I'm sure for the
Yeah.
people at the back as well. At the back. But all right.
Um,
Okay. Um, hmm. All right. I'm gonna skip this question for now. Come back to it. So we've talked about nutrition, like basically food.
yeah.
Oh, actually, yeah. Um, how do I go from here? How vital then? You've already said food is important in
Yeah.
Gaining weight, how vital now. We'll skip that. What about exercise?
Do you know what? I think I kind of touched on it,
Mm,
but I don't want to skip over the fact that nutrition is key.
mm,
Like you have to have the right amount of carbohydrates, protein, and fats in a day is key. Training, you you don't want to overtrain. For those people that don't believe in it, there is something called overtraining. So for someone that wants to gain weight, my recommendation or what I've seen that's worked for me is because you want to keep your body in you want to always be in a calorie surplus. So more calories in, the more calories going out. So you actually want to exercise less, if that makes sense. So
mm.
some people go to the gym every day. You're not going to put on size that way because you're constantly active. So you're burning all that food you're eating that we were talking about earlier. Your body's using that for energy. So I would recommend actually coming down to 4 days a week, training 4 times a week. And when you're in the gym, focus more on the compound exercises. So, for example, with legs, you want to squat. That's just a given. A lot of people don't like squats, but that's the staple of it. If you want to put on good weight on your lower body, you want to squat, you want to leg press. Focus more on the compound exercises, and you will put on weight. And that's kind of like the key around training in that essence. You don't want to overdo the training because of calorie output, but you want to train enough to break down the muscle tissue so the body uses the food that it carries in the blood to replenish those muscle tissues to grow back bigger and stronger,
What is
and you gain
compound
weight.
training?
Compound. So with compounds, you in the gym you have two types of movements. You have isolation movements whereby you are focusing on, so you could, for example, I'll use examples. Leg extensions. So when you're doing the leg extension machine, that's an isolation movement because it's focused primarily on a certain part of your thighs. Whereas if you squat, when you actually squat, it's a compound, meaning it incorporates multiple muscle groups. So when you squat, it's going to incorporate your lower back, it's going to involve your glutes, it's going to involve your hamstrings, your quads, so your the back of your thighs, the inside of your thighs, the front of your thighs, and your calves. So a compound exercise, it will be doing the bigger exercises rather than focusing on the smaller isolation movements.
Mm, okay, all right. So
Yeah,
basically, compounds, you can actually have compound exercises at home as well in it.
exactly. So the good thing with compound exercises, so for guys that want to have a big chest, rather than focusing on like flies or whatever, do your bench presses. You know, you do your bench presses for big arms, do your dips, do your barbell curls, anything that for a nice wide back, do your pull-ups, do your deadlifts, do your barbell rolls. So you want to do the bigger movements rather than the small isolation type movements. So you can do compound exercises. The good thing about with the compound movements is, like you said, you don't necessarily have to be in the gym to do them. If you've got a weight set at home, you can do your squats, you can do your presses, you can do whatever you need to do. You don't need to use the fancy machines in a way.
Mm. One other tip thanks for that. One other tip I learned when it comes to gaining weight, especially for ladies, is the benefits of using a waist trainer.
Oh
Because
yeah.
I've seen like a lot of people, like especially ladies, I'm sure even guys as well. Some people like they're like, okay, I want to gain weight, and then all the all along they were struggling. So they start eating and then they start realizing, oh snap, I'm gaining weight, but I'm gaining weight on places I don't want. Maybe the weight is mainly coming in the stomach
Yeah,
and everything. So a
yeah,
weight
yeah.
training would actually help whilst you're doing your exercises because it will kind of help reduce the abdominal weight and enable the weight to go to other areas. So that's
That's
another
true.
for someone might be, oh, whenever I gain weight, it just comes on the stomach, around the stomach, and
That,
you want to reduce that,
yeah,
get a waist trainer.
that's true actually, because that was pointed out to me by a guy I know from my gym. He does that strongman powerlifting. So like that powerlifting strongman type stuff. He's ridiculously strong and he's big. He's an absolute unit. But he was like, do you know what? Do you know what keeps my stomach in check? I was like, now go on, surprise me. And he was like, I wear a waist trainer, pretty much all the time. And if you see him, he's a unit. I think he's about 20 stone. He's an absolute unit. He's quite a 20 stone, which is about 100 and I'll say about 120 kg. But he's got a trim, flat stomach. All the weight goes to the other areas of his body. And
Yeah.
he's like, yeah, I use it. So for guys out there that think you shouldn't wear waist trainers, there are a lot of people that do actually. A lot of guys that do that you wouldn't suspect.
Yeah, go for it. Go for it. Okay, interesting. So, next question is yeah, yeah, you've answered that. Um, do you have any? You've answered that. I think you've literally answered almost all the questions now. All right,
So
protein supplements, because a lot of people they're like, okay, do I need supplements? And you're about to touch on it.
yeah, I
Do
didn't go into that.
we need supplements to gain weight? Are they necessary or not?
Necessary? No,
Okay.
it's not necessary. You don't necessarily have to take a protein supplement, but it all depends on your circumstances. So for someone who has the time to get all their calories, the more calories you can get from solid food, the better. But if you find yourself in a situation where, because when offices were open, it used to take me anywhere between 40 minutes to an hour and a half to get to work, depending on traffic. So if you find yourself, you're in a situation where for example, people that live in and around the London area, if you have not got the hours in the day to get all your calories from food, supplements help. So what I used to do when offices were open were I would blend my first meal. So my first meal typically always used to be porridge and some type of protein. So I would just have quickly blend my oats and put in a scoop of protein shake. And then I'd like slice a banana into that as well, blend that and drink it as a smoothie as I'm driving to work. Do you know what I mean? So I've got my carbohydrates in there, I've got my fruit in there, I've got my protein in there. If you don't want to do that, you could buy protein supplements that have got carbohydrates in there as well. You just completely just blend that in the first thing in the morning, drink it as you go, and it's got the calories you need. So it's not necessary, but it can help in certain circumstances. And also, if you don't find that you don't like eating in the evenings, but you wouldn't mind having like some sort of liquid meal, protein supplements do help. So you can get that nutrition in the evening just by having a quick protein shake, whether you decide to do what you add stuff to it like I tend to do just to increase the calories. That's up to you. If you want, you can have it straight. Do you know what I mean? So there is a place for it, but it's not a necessity. No.
Mm. Wait, did you say blend oats?
Yeah, you can blend them. It's not gonna be dry, Of course you're gonna use, you're not gonna just blend the oats just by themselves. and they're not going to be cooked. They're going to be raw. Do
Yeah.
you know what I mean? They're going to be raw. So milk doesn't go down well with me, whether it's soya milk, almond milk, or normal milk. So I tend to use water for my protein supplements. So I just put water in there, a little bit of oats, slice a banana, put my protein in there, blend that, drink it. You can't even taste the oats. All you can taste is the protein shake because they tend to be flavored.
Okay.
And that's that. That's very common. That's very common.
Oh wow, never heard of it. I don't
There
know.
you go.
I'm living in my own little world, so
There
yeah.
you go. You've learned something new. You've
Yes,
learned
yes.
something new.
What kind of supplements then would you advise? Especially like let's say, but I don't know if you know, like let's say if someone was vegetarian and
Uh,
yeah.
I would recommend vegetarian or non-vegetarian. It pretty much is the same type of supplements you want to take. So depending on your budget, you do want to have some sort of good multivitamins if you're not getting everything from food. You do want to have something that if you're going to the gym a lot, you want to eat food that's also quite rich in zinc and magnesium. If you can't get those, you could buy those as supplements. That's just to do with joint health. Anything to do with joint health would do. But I would say where it differs between a vegetarian and non-vegetarian is I would still recommend protein, but now with the technological advancements, especially in the health sector and the food nutrition sector, is there are vegan and vegetarian friendly protein supplements that you can buy. They're slightly a bit more expensive, but you'll see that they are they tend to use different sources of protein that's a lot more vegan and vegetarian friendly. And to be honest, most of them, I've tried a couple of times because sometimes when I go to the store where I buy my protein shake, he'll give me samples of stuff. And they are very friendly to they are very stomach friendly. So you're not going to get any funny feeling or struggle to process them. They're still great tasting, so they taste nice. But yeah, so I would still recommend a protein supplement, but not, just to clarify, there are vegan and vegetarian protein friendly supplements out there and that are from those type of sources. So it's the industry, the fitness industry now caters for all dietary requirements. If you're someone who needs a protein that's gluten free, it's all there. If you need supplements that are gluten free, everything is there. So really, there's no excuses, is there? If you do want to get some,
Okay. All right. So
yeah,
basically, guys, do your research and see what works for you.
exactly. Yeah, always ask. Always, what I did when I was still, and I'm still learning a lot because I'm not an expert. I'm not a nutrition expert. And I find that different things work differently for my body, different foods.
Mhm.
I ask questions. I always ask questions to people, and I was never afraid to approach people in the gym when I started. I would always say, "Look, you find that 90% of the time, if you time it perfectly, people are always willing to help and ask questions because where you are, they used to be there, so they understand the struggle. Like, you know what I mean? So, for example, with me, I get a lot of questions from people, and typically I'm like, you know what? In my mind, I'm like, I remember those days, so I am willing to like say, yeah, do you know what? Try this, try that, try this. If this
Mhm.
doesn't work, move things around, do this. So yeah, so don't be afraid to ask questions, and especially with social media these days, if you've got people that you follow, that you see that they actually know what they're talking about in terms of training and nutrition, slide in their DMs, ask questions. Do you know what I mean? What's the worst that could happen? Do you get what I mean? What's the
Yeah.
worst that could happen?
Mm, mm. Oh, I had a question. Oh yeah. Just to add on that, I think one other, just what I would recommend, especially for vegetarians, like one good supplement I've found out there is creatine. Because it's really not like a lot of vegetarians like what's it called? They're lacking on it. Um,
Yeah,
due to not eating meat and fish and everything like that. And
yeah, yeah,
creatine
yeah.
is really important in the body, whether you want to gain muscle or not. Like even if you want to lose weight,
Yeah,
like it's one of the best supplements out there because it helps with like the muscle density, muscle growth, and
fullness.
everything like
Yeah,
that. So I think that's something that I would personally
recommend.
recommend.
Yeah, yeah. Creatine very good, very good. Good for energy as well.
Mm.
It's good for the energy, and you're right actually, because people that do eat meat will get that from certain meat sources as well. So it's good. Yeah, creatine. I'd forgotten about that one.
Mm. Yeah,
I'd
cool.
forgotten about that one.
All right. So yeah, other than what we've discussed, because right now we've touched on the different body types. We've touched on why people want to gain a little bit of the advantages of gaining weight.
Yeah,
I think I might have to stretch that again at the end. And also we've touched on the importance of nutrition and exercise and comfort exercises, like the importance of them in gaining weight, and a little
yeah.
bit of supplements. Like they're not fully necessary
Nessus.
if the diet is good and adequate, but if you're not having an amazing diet and you're struggling to fit everything or the nutrients, then researching into supplements might be a
Good.
a good
Yeah,
idea, as long as you research and you ask around and make sure that whatever supplements you're taking, you're not ending up overeating in the same nutrients. Because if you, let's say, you end up in eating a lot of iron, taking a lot of iron from your diet, and then you add supplements, which are also a lot of iron, that can also cause side effects long term. So if you're gonna take
yeah,
supplements, just make sure you're not overdoing it. That's a topic for another day. Yeah.
yeah. That the nutritional side. That's your speciality, isn't it? That's your
Yeah.
thing.
That's a
That's your
topic. It
thing.
just made me think,
Yeah,
oh, actually, that could be a good topic
yeah.
idea for another day. But yeah, so do you have, other than what we've talked about, do you have anything else you think we should discuss or we might have left out?
Do you know what? First point I'll touch on is sleep. I can't stress enough how important it is to get good quality sleep. Like everyone I've from when I started this whole thing, this whole part of my life, the key thing I was always told is you want to eat well, you want to live like a baby. So you want to eat good, train, but then you want to sleep good because that is when the body gets to rest. That's when the body gets to recover, and it's during that period that it does the rebuilding that adds on that weight, whether it's muscular weight, etc. That's when the body does the work it needs to work. So you can get the food right, you can get the training right, but if you're not sleeping right, it's not good. You're not going to get the results, and you need to be consistent with it. And it's also like, realistically speaking, you want to look at about 7, 8 hours sleep a night. That's realistic. Not everyone's going to be able to have 8 hours sleep every day because it's just life. We've got work, we've got things to do outside of work. Do you know what I mean? But you want to look at that 7 to 8 hours sleep a day. The second thing, really outside of what we talked about, I didn't really touch on it as I should have during when we're talking about nutrition and food, is timing, meal timing, and the three most important meals of the day, which is your breakfast. You want to have that needs to be your most calorie dense meal because you want to eat larger portions earlier on and then taper down because your metabolism slows down throughout the day. But depending on what time you go to the gym, The other two most important meals is your meal before you go to the gym, because that's what's going to fuel, and you want to have that typically an hour and a half before you get into the gym, because that's what's going to fuel your workout, and the meal after you come back from the gym, because that's what's going to feed your body what it needs to rest and recover. So those are the three most important meals, I would say, in how I was breaking down the meal structure earlier. And the final thing is just be consistent.
Mm,
The whole thing is be consistent, but don't be too hard on yourself. If you have a day where you miss a meal, or you're not feeling like going to the gym, don't be too hard on yourself. Otherwise, it becomes more of a chore rather than you enjoying the process. You want to enjoy this process. It's not easy, but try be as consistent as possible. Consistency gets results every single time. Be consistent. But if you have an off day, or you miss a meal, or you have a day where you're like, you know what, my body is just too tired, don't be too hard on yourself. Do you know what I mean? At the end of the day, you're doing this for longevity, not for a short burst of results.
mm,
Do you
mm.
get what I mean?
I like those points, like like especially the longevity, like lifestyle thing, because I'm a big supporter of lifestyle. Whatever you do, whether it's gaining weight,
Yeah,
it's losing weight, it's maintaining, changing habits or whatever, it should be about lifestyle. Because when it's about lifestyle,
yeah,
then that means consistency will come into the equation, and that will bring better results long term than if it's all about I just want it now. Then that can
yeah,
also cause mental health and all that if it's always about I want it now kind of thing. So yeah, I
exactly.
like that. I like that. And it's actually funny how back in the day our parents would be like, "Go and sleep," and we all hated to sleep, and they'll tell us, no, you need to sleep in order to grow. But now you're
Yeah,
like rephrasing it. You actually, in order to grow, you also need to sleep. In
you
order
need
to
to
reach
sleep.
dreams, you need to sleep. Sleep is important. And if someone wants to understand why is sleep important, I think you should research into circadian cycle, if you want to know more. And then just research into that. And then I think once you research into that, you realize, oh my gosh, my body, everyone's body needs sleep because it has a lot of like benefits, especially in this journey of gaining weight in a healthy way. So
Yeah,
yeah, thanks, Tawanda. It's been really good learning from you and talking to you. And yeah, like I'm sure I enjoyed the tips. Like some of them, I will put them in my life. At the moment, I don't want to gain weight, but I'm sure a lot of people out there, they really want to gain. So I'm sure what you've said will actually benefit someone out there who's listening to
yeah.
this or who's going to listen to this and then share it with someone else. But thanks a lot for coming in my talk. Yeah, we talk.
No, no, no. Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
I hope I hope someone does benefit. I mean, it was kind of tricky for me because obviously I look at things predominantly from a bodybuilding perspective, but bodybuilding and weight gain, the two do go together. But it is. I hope if people can just pull a few things out of it, then that's good.
Yeah, it was good. It
That's
was
good.
good. Don't worry about that.
That's good.
All right. Until next time. See you guys. And
Thanks for having me on.
all right. Take care.